Welcome back. All right, so with all of the discussion recently about low attendance and whatnot, I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and talk about league revenues and finances and all that. Because, of course, we're looking at next summer and saying, hey, the salary cap's going to go up. But when you start seeing empty seats, the first thing you think is, but is it? And the answer, I think, is yes. So Winnipeg is the one that stands out as, right now, because it's a surprise. Winnipeg is seen as absolutely a hockey market. It is. But so are Buffalo and San Jose. And both Buffalo and San Jose have been struggling with attendance for years. San Jose not drawing well at all. Buffalo, it has been half to mostly empty for the last at least 3 seasons. In Buffalo, it feels like it's basically a case where the fans have said, we can't support this team. There are other financial reasons. So, yes, there are a lot of people right now who might want to go to a hockey game that just don't have the money to go. And with all of the costs of everything right now, they're like, I can't afford to do this. Totally understandable. Got it. It is interesting, though, too, because then I've seen posts about, hey, this team's mediocre. Why would people go out and watch it? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you mean like what I've been saying for years about Florida and Arizona? I have been saying this for years. And look at Florida. So in 2021-2022, their attendance 14,811. Clearly not a hockey market, right? 2023-2024, so far this year, 19,288 fans. So it turns out when you have a team that's winning, when you have a team that's gone to a Stanley Cup final, people show up. And the argument I've seen from some Jets fans is, well, I don't like how this team's being run. I don't agree. I'm not going out. I'm not supporting it. I don't agree with this at all. And I know there's fans in Buffalo that feel that way. And in San Jose, a lot of it's probably apathy. The San Jose Sharks are going to be bad for a while. And with the trading of Erik Karlsson, you've lost your main selling point to get people in the building to watch the team play. So unless San Jose suddenly goes on a run, which is highly unlikely, they're 0-3-1 to start the season, fans just likely won't attend. You're going to have this issue with San Jose. Now, you have to look at whether or not a team's losing money, as well as having that low attendance. In some cases, they would be, and in some cases, maybe they're not. One thing the National Hockey League understands now, I think, better than what they did, they can't just be a gate-driven league, which is what they were prior to right around 2020 when things changed. And everything changed at that point where they realized, okay, we can't have fans in every building. How are we going to generate more money? And I think they've done a pretty good job of that. It feels like they had 4 or 5 different ideas to generate more revenue. 2020 hit and they went yes to all of them. And so it's been a bit of a shakeup. But when you look at sponsorship money, the sponsorship money jumped in a year from $623 million to $1.4 billion. It is highly unlikely that sponsorship money drops this season, right? So now you've got over $1 billion coming in that has very little to do with the team on the ice. You have corporate money buying tickets. We've had this discussion on the channel before, where corporations and companies basically buy up a bunch of tickets, or they have the suites, and it generates a lot of money for the team. And we've talked about this when we talk about expansion, that the NHL looks at where there are big corporations and where there's a lot of corporate dollars, and they say, you know what, that market will work or that market won't work. And at times it's because the corporate money's there or it's not there. So sports betting is one thing that we've discussed on this channel numerous times, but it's definitely growing. And so is its influence around sports. And this is not a hockey thing. It's everywhere, right? And I'll talk about that as well further down in this video. But the TV deals in US and Canada right now, record amount of money. So between the TV deals, the sponsorships going up, you've got to think the sponsorship money is going to go up again this year, because the NHL is finding new ways to partner with companies, corporations, and it's worked pretty well. It's worked pretty well for them. So with the betting continuing to grow and your sponsorships continuing to grow, when you have a situation like the whole BioSteel thing that ends up not looking great, where BioSteel basically goes bankrupt and you're not going to get your money from them, you have other ways to make that money up. Now, the league had record high revenues last season. So the idea that, they're going to go from making about $6 billion last year to, well, now they're in deep trouble because there's a couple of markets that are not drawing the way they should. Like, it's more alarming for those markets. It's more alarming for the idea that eventually an owner could sell. And when an owner says, you know what, I'm going to sell, you don't know what's going to happen. So I would say of the 3 cities that are on the board, Winnipeg might be the one where that is maybe more likely than the other 2. Although, I mean, Winnipeg was a guaranteed sellout for a decade, right? So that really shouldn't be a problem. Now, the additions over the last few years have been startling. You have ads on the helmets, which aren't really intrusive, but it's kind of a shame because, I don't know, there's just aesthetically some of them don't look right. The ads on the jerseys, same thing. Aesthetically, jerseys should be clean. This is just one of those custom deals I got from it's one of those $50 advertisers on Facebook kind of thing. And it's not like I'm going to get this jersey and say to my wife, can you get me a Coke logo to throw on the front of this so there's an ad so it looks like an NHL jersey? No. And in general, the ads are not the... I understand they generate more money, but they're not something that I'm a big fan of. I would love to see them gone. It's not going to happen. Ads during game. Now, what I'm talking about with this is they've added it feels like there's an extra ad break now. And what drives me insane watching a game is when they go to commercial with less than a minute left in the period. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Just do the last 30 seconds and have a 4-minute ad break, like decent people, rather than the 2-minute ad break and then come back for 30 seconds of hockey before you go back to commercial. But there's a lot more ads, and it's not just the extra during the game, but you have the inset too. And what drives me crazy with these ads is that an announcer will be talking while there's a break in the play, and then all of a sudden the ad goes over top. So the announcer's cut off by an advertisement during the game. So yes, it's a break in play, but it's a little 10-second inset ad, so you'll have the game on one side and you'll have the little ad on the other. It's a lot of advertising, right? It's like the NHL and the networks have said, how can we get more ads stuffed into this? And again, it's chasing that revenue. And it's the NHL trying to get away from being just attendance-based, where more than 50% of NHL revenues were from attendance. So if your attendance drops, you're not making money anymore. The gambling, again, being everywhere. This is during the game, so before every face-off, it'll tell you, hey, here are the odds brought to you by AWS. Here are the odds brought to you by Fifth Third Bank. Here's the ads brought... Like, even the reviews are now brought to you by somebody. This offside goal review is brought to you by State Farm. Like, it's insane. But every time they say it, it's idiocracy. You know, it's brought to you by Carl's Jr. Every time they say it, somebody's getting paid somewhere, right? Or they're fulfilling their obligation to that advertiser, that sponsor. And that's something we never used to see, where absolutely everything has an advertising tie-in. I mean, I've even thought about on like quiet days just counting the number of ad tie-ins I see during a game that aren't commercials. It's a lot. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money the NHL's generating. Then you have the digital boards, which generate a lot of money because those advertisements, you cycle through them. So the way that your standard boards work, which are much less aggravating to the eyes, remember, the boards, they fixed them this year. So all those times that you see the players are blurry up against the boards, that's not actually happening. You're having a stroke. So I've had a lot of them this year already. I've been alarmed at just how bad some games have been when it comes to the boards. And I've started to wonder if it's certain broadcasts. Again, that's not something I'm tracking, but I'm thinking about it because some games, it's really, really bad where the players are just blending into the boards, and every time they go near the boards, they turn into ghosts. Like there's this shimmer around them. But again, the NHL's not going to go away from them because they generate more money, right? That Enterprise ad with the car going around that distracts your eye, you're like, what's going on over there? Oh, there was a goal. Thanks, Enterprise. I don't know what that does for their bottom line because now you're mad. Now you just want to call them and go, thanks for distracting me from a goal. But the digital boards generate a lot more money. And I think that's why the NHL is like, it's a shame there's people who don't like it. It's a shame that there's reports of them potentially causing seizures to people who might be, epileptic. But hey, it makes more money. And the NHL, all of these extra revenues are designed to get around the attendance being down. to get around some other economic uncertainties, right? And the idea being that you have all of these built-in backups so that when fans don't go to the building, it's okay. If you're not in attendance, it's okay. And the other thing, too, is there are times where you'll see a lot of empty seats, but the paid attendance is actually pretty high. And that's standard. Like, we've got season tickets here in Abbotsford. There are plenty of games where our seats go unaccounted for, and there's nobody in those seats. Because obviously I can't go to every game. Yvonne can't go to every game. So it makes it look like Abbotsford's got some empty seats that aren't actually empty because they're paid. And again, the NHL doesn't care if you show up as long as you're paying for the ticket. So paid attendance, and this is something that's been talked about with some of the southern franchises as well, where, well, they paper their attendance. Those people are all there on free tickets. Free tickets were done away with in Florida when new ownership came in. I believe free tickets were done away with in Arizona as well. I think that was an Arizona thing. And I know I've heard at points in time that Tampa Bay was, and again, this is just all, talk online and all that. But I don't think there's anything free from anybody anymore. As far as I know, you're going to have free tickets here and there for your friends and family. Although I think NHLers are still paying for tickets for their friends and family, especially if you're into the 25, 30. I think if it's just a couple, and if it's a building that's not sold out all the time, you can probably find a couple of tickets. But these things usually are cyclical. There are certainly locations where attendance has been down and it goes back up, like I said, with Florida. Chicago and Arizona haven't played home games yet. I would think the attendance in Arizona is going to be low because they're playing in a very small building. The attendance in Chicago, my guess is it'll probably be pretty high to start because everybody wants to see Bedard. I don't know if it's going to stay there when the games aren't important in, say, February, March. If Chicago falls way out of the race, we probably will see a drop-off in their attendance as well. But again, the NHL, the way that it's designed now and the way that this model continues to change, there's no reason to think it won't change further. So the idea that the attendance being low in a few locations might be bad for the salary cap is out there. But the fact that Florida's now drawing over 19,000 fans per game, and I've mentioned this before too, but I'll mention it here, a Canadian market, you're charging for tickets in Canadian dollars, you're paying your players in American dollars. Last I looked, the Canadian dollar, it's $1.37 Canadian to make an American dollar, something along those lines. It's over $1.30, and that adds up. That adds up when you're taking in your revenues in Canadian money and you're paying it out in American. It's tough. So that's going to make Canadian tickets a lot more expensive, at least on the face of it, until you look at like the exchange rate and all that. But it is challenging. And it'll be interesting to see if the attendance numbers change. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.